Sonia's here and Sonja's here.
I'm going for one. 9 o'clock is my ice cream time, whether I eat it in front of you or not. So if I'm bit, go ahead, Patty, grin. I forgot where I was at and got caught last night. So.
Hello. Well, we'll try not to keep you till ice cream time. We'll try to get this finished.
You know how it is, bagel in the morning and ice cream in the evening.
I know. For you, I know your routine.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Okay, it looks like we've got a number of folks on here, including folks outside of the commissioner. I'm glad to see Danny McLean here and Ken Rudd and John Thompson's on the line. I want to also thank Abby Fry for continually stepping up to the cause and all that we ask her to do in making sure that we have these calls regularly and that we all can access it. So thank you, Abby, for all you do for the commission and particularly dealing with the technology. I'll call us to order. As you will recall, we recessed our August 4th Health and Welfare Committee meeting to meet tonight, August 18th, to discuss or to further discuss broadband access in Carter County. The agenda that I sent out was essentially a one-item agenda. However, I've had at least one or two commissioners asking if they can comment on other items, and I think it would be appropriate at the end to allow them to do so. For the public that's on the line and for the press, we're meeting vis-a-vis Zoom because of the COVID pandemic, and been advised on by council in the state of Tennessee and the mayor's office that we need to not only physical distance, but to protect not only ourselves, but the community and be good stewards of leading that community. So that is our disclosure. So I'll call us to order, and I don't see Gwen on here. So she may not be with us.
She's not shown up on the call, but I'll make sure she gets a recording for continuation of the minutes.
Okay, thank you, Abby. As far as our regular committee, I see Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Hill, Commissioner McCamey, Commissioner Holdren, Commissioner Jenkins, Commissioner Culler. Am I missing anybody else that's the regular for health?
James is there.
Who's there?
James.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I didn't see you in there, and I've also.
I'm logged in under a different number.
Oh, okay. And I see too that Commissioner Woodby and Commissioner Grindstaff are on board with us this evening. So thank you all for your continued interest in joining us. I'll just open it up. I know we have some things to catch up on, and we'll just go with the agenda as was distributed if there are no objections. Since there's no public on the line, we'll dispense with public comment. So let's just jump into the subject at hand and let's catch each other up on where we are with broadband internet discussion. And Commissioner Hill, I'll ask you to update us. I did sent out the most recent Survey Monkey that you did for internet access in Carter County. So if you want to say something about that, that'd be great.
Well, thank you, Chairman. We've had a total of 395 respondents, which isn't great. The overwhelming number of them say they would spend $40 for improved broadband service if it was made available to them. 20% said more than $60 a month. The $50 a month fee was also right at 25% of. I got to hold the space bar down to keep talking. I'm sorry. Um, do you have sufficient speed with your internet service? 390 answered, 5 skipped, 70% say no. Are there K-12 age school children in your home? 60% yes, 40% no. College students was a big time reversal of that. Are there college students in your home? 75% no, and about 25% yes. I sent this late this afternoon. I distilled the most updated responses, and by far most of the folks that have broadband have cable. Um, only about 10-15% of the respondents say they have no access at all, and the same amount say mobile only. That's really all I've got on the Survey Monkey. And like I was saying earlier, I was finally able to get a hold of a Mr. Joe Thacker with Mountain Electric Cooperative, and he was very clear that they are not interested in engaging in a new line of business, and that they had investigated this 10 years ago, roughly a decade ago, and they came up with a $60 million projection as to what it would cost for them to get into the fiber optic cable broadband business. He does recognize that some conditions have changed since 10 years ago. He did say that we might be able to convince their board to enter into some sort of partnership, some sort of alliance, and just for kicks and grins, the 2021 pole attachment fee is $33.38 per pole. That's what it's going to cost whatever provider we bring in, and that's set by TVA. That's what it's going to cost to attach something to a Mountain Electric system power pole, unless we can work out some kind of agreement with whoever the provider might be in Mountain Electric, or they would bury the cable, one of the two.
Mike, is that a monthly fee or a weekly fee? What is the lease on that?
I think that's annually, and that's per pole. Surely it wouldn't be $30 a month per pole. That would be some crazy astronomical number. Travis Hill had told me that he wrote sizable checks to. They accepted quite a large payment from whoever, I guess, charter in the city for attachment fees for the Mountain or the Elizabethton Electric power poles. So that's the thing. That's an expense of doing business. I have been in touch with Commissioner John Welch, Watauga County Commissioner John Welch. I'm scheduled tentatively to run down to Boone and meet him for lunch or something, and he's willing to give up details of the elements of grants that they received over in Watauga County. One of which was they apparently hooked up the entire downtown of Blowing Rock with free Wi-Fi connectivity. You can hang out in the park and get on your laptop or your device over there. So there's kind of like nice perks that come along with getting the grants that are built-in components of like the federal ones, and that's really all I've got, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Ken Raid, is there any negotiation with TVA on that per pole rate? Any latitude that rural counties would have there with them that you know of, or is that set in stone?
I really don't know to answer that question one way or the other. So.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
I got the impression that would be something that you would address to Mountain Electric's board, and then they would, I guess, address it up the chain to the TVA if there was any leniency to be had. And I don't know. I can't speak for them, but he didn't imply that they were really digging the idea of a partnership. But if we could bring someone in that already had a program to deploy, maybe they would work together. That was the implication I got. It was a solid, ambiguous maybe.
Okay, thank you for that.
I do remember Sky. I do remember Skybest saying they prefer to put theirs underground.
That is correct. They prefer to bury their cable for that reason. It cuts down on the expenses with ongoing, pole rental and such.
Thank you for that. Ken, what do we need to do to get in touch with the governor's office, the individual that's over the grant program for rural Tennessee that would impact this?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. Her name is Crystal Ivy, and she's over the broadband opportunity grant program. And I can forward information to you or try to set something up, whatever makes sense. So.
That would be great. Whatever you think would be the most effective. I know in terms of when I've done grants from federal sources, it's always good to reach out to the program manager before you write the grant and make sure that we qualify and that they are our inside advocate, if you will. I know they're not going to just hand us the money, but if they know something's coming, they can always look out for us.
And I think something that Crystal has, they've done the program for several years, so she can probably come up with some situations that are similar to Carter County and how they address their problem.
Okay, that sounds good. However you think we should contact her, whether it be a conduit through you, or you want her to, or if you want to forward the information, and I don't mind reaching out to her. But however you think would be most effective, because you're going to be one of our partners in this as we go forward as the First Tennessee Development District.
Okay, let me see how Crystal wants to do it, and we'll go from there.
Okay, that sounds good. I know that our last meeting, Danny McLean, something was said about maybe the potential of you all, the Carter County Schools, providing some survey data. Is that still in the works, and is that still possible? I know you all got other things on your plate, but
well, yeah, as far as sharing the survey, it's absolutely possible. The problem is it's not really detailed. It's just more how many have internet access, how many do not, and so on. It doesn't necessarily detail down to the community or addresses. It doesn't even have the student names. But I can definitely share that data. But I do have one other thing I want to add. And Isaiah, are you on here, Isaiah Grindstaff? But
hey, Danny. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. ENA is our internet provider for the school system.
Right.
And they have, of course, fiber to every building. And again, I'm speaking about things that I'm not greatly detailed in, but I believe we should get ENA involved in this conversation because they have some government contacts and they only provide internet service and fiber, my understanding, is to government and educational entities. So I think we definitely need to have a phone call with ENA and figure out if they can help and what options they have available.
okay. Do you or Isaiah, either one of you all, do you all have contact information, someone that we can reach out to?
I have contact information, and actually tomorrow at some point, I will make a phone call. I've got some people at ENA that I know well, but I need to get some names from them of who we exactly talked to about what we're talking about here. So I will get further contact information tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Danny?
Yeah.
This is Patty. I noticed when I registered my little boy for school, just on his registration, it did ask, and it's got his name, our address, it's the registration card. It does ask if you have internet and how many if you have a device.
Yes.
On that.
Yes, with the new internet registration, we will actually have better data, but that may be a week or so down the road.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed it when I done it online last week. It did ask, and if we had internet and if we had devices.
Okay, then that will be something that we can attach the name and actual addresses to. I am sure you guys are aware of this, but we would have to be real careful about releasing names and some of that. But as far as the data, I could definitely get you access to that.
Just the address and the internet access would probably what we would need, correct, Commissioner
Exactly.
Hill?
Well, the goal of the survey is twofold. It's to justify that there are a number of customers that would adopt the service, would subscribe, pretty much immediately once it was deployed. And the more important piece with the addresses is to identify the areas in the maps that are provided that are not quite accurate, to expand those grant available pockets where the service doesn't exist. So that's the point of the address. But we're developing a case to try to present to a suitor that we would have a number of customers that would sign up for their service if they were able to deploy. And then for applying for the grants, we need to justify that the coverage is not as great as the federal data and the state level data shows right now. Does that help?
Yes.
I think it does help. Go ahead, Danny.
I was just saying that absolutely helps. But if we can tie addresses to the data, we should be able to generate some sort of map to find out what you're talking about there.
Exactly. And the planning office has the ability to generate that map. There are examples I can share if you guys want to see what other counties have looked like.
Mr. Chairman, Brad Johnson.
Yes, sir.
My question may be directed toward Isaiah or even Mr. McLean, but my understanding of what y'all saying, this ENA, they're providing the technology at our schools, in our schools, and connect our schools. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Where is that fiber coming from?
Isaiah, I'll have to turn that over to you.
Okay. A little while back, the schools was able to upgrade their internet that was provided, and one of the things that they were able to do is contract out with ENA, and inside the areas where where Elizabethan Electric actually maintain, Elizabethan Electric helped run fiber from the school system out to all the schools. The only schools that aren't covered in that was, if I remember correctly, is Little Milligan and the Cloudland schools. Due to the kind of the layout with Elizabethan Electric, they don't own those poles. Those go to Mountain Electric. And Little Milligan, I may be wrong about Little Milligan. I can't really remember that one very well, but Cloudland and them especially, they utilize CenturyLink fiber to make that connection back to ENA in Cloudlands. So ENA is pretty good with developing this fiber backbone. They do this in I would say the majority of counties in Tennessee, as well as Atlanta, Georgia. They're probably one of the largest education network companies that's out there, and they provide the internet service on existing backbone, or in this case, new backbone that was kind of laid out. And most of that is paid for by federal grant monies that the schools are qualified for through E-rate.
Okay, the other question, do we have it, how's the Stony Creek district? Are we at the Unique Elementary?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I add one thing to that, Mr. Johnson? A couple of 3 years ago, when we went through this process, as far as getting fiber to the buildings, I do want to add this, and Isaiah or maybe others could speak to this. I'll be honest with you, this becomes very convoluted, because when you start having these conversations, you got to have conversations with ENA, you got to have conversations with CenturyLink, you got to have conversations with Charter, you got to have conversations with Comcast, because at some point they all link up, ever how it works. So I guess what I'm saying is, if we're going to forward this process, we have got to get people from each of these places involved in this, because they're going to have a say in this process going forward.
Yeah, I figured that would be the case. What I'm trying to get to is, all right, for I'm gonna say a quick fix, more or less. We have it at the school. If we can look and see if the capability in a 3-mile radius around the school, what is those capabilities? And I'm sure that you have to go through all those owners, subcontractors and all, but also on the other hand, we should have some office holders that we can get the interstaff to go down and help out with this too.
Absolutely.
Now the far range plan looks good coming over the mountains out of Washington County or Watauga County or Avery County or out through Johnson counties, but that's an expensive long range plan which takes time to develop. But since you've got it at a certain point, it may be to our advantage for our school if we find a way, just like I said, we can stay within a 3-mile radius. And I would say, just guessing off the top of my head, without looking at maps, we should be able to hit more than half of our students, shouldn't we?
Yeah. Yeah. With a 3-mile radius, I would say more than half.
Ready now?
Just to throw this out, I'm not familiar with everything that goes on in county schools, so I don't know how well they're equipped with healthcare, like a nursing individual or a nursing aide at each of the high schools or elementary schools. I do know that Ken Ray made the statement during our last meeting that there is a special dispensation, if you will, for telehealth. Being able to hook it up from point A to point B. I'm wondering if we do have that capability in our elementary and high schools that we might get some traction for telehealth in that regard from school to physician's office or whatever.
Honestly, we already have that ability. And I think Sonia Miller is on here, but we already have telehealth available through each of our buildings.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. But again, that is only for students, is my understanding. So if that could be expanded out, that's something we could actually look at.
Sonia, you want to comment?
Yes, I do. Thank you. We do already have telehealth in all of our schools. We contract with EMD Anywhere. That's a company that provides that hardware and software for our school nurses. So that is already something that we're doing.
Okay. Ken, if we take that to other sources or to a pediatric office, for instance, or some other outside of what they're currently doing, does that give us any special latitude to write that into some formal grant process or grant application?
Yeah, if there's a medical application to what you're doing, I think that's a positive. So.
Okay. So that gets us points, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
But does that also work on the education side of the house to where, in my infamous wisdom, we have cable there at the schools, we have a point, even though this ENA is the provider and the custodian of that, would that not help in our submittal if we brought ENA on board and let's discuss with them if it's a possibility that we can connect on with their service and maybe just branch off, but keeping the understanding that the education comes first. For somebody else to get on the network other than for educational purposes, for some way you would have to monitor it because you wouldn't want to overtax the system and ruin what we already have in our schools.
I'll say, Mr. Johnson, that's exactly what I was talking about. That's the reason we need to get ENA involved.
Yeah.
First off, ask them if that's something that we can do. And if that is something we can do, I would assume that would even be more points toward a grant because we would have a central location or a central hub to branch out from.
You know, because if we branch out and we have to pay the price of
Right.
to hang on poles to get within that 3 mile radius from that designated point or that termination from the internet provider, then that would be, I think, more logical around our school and for our education system. And then while we're working on the major backbone to bring full broadband throughout the rest of the county.
If you remember during our discovery call with the SkyBest folks, Edward Tenon described connecting to existing infrastructure if it was built adequately to do so.
Yeah.
And I think that might have been what he was hinting at. The school network might be like a launching point for them to deploy to residential. And that's a big I don't know. I'm happy to reach out to them. I think that would be a good logical next step if we were able to arrange for the ENA people to come up with a memorandum of understanding, contract, whatever, to let a grant-funded enterprise build off of their existing network. That might be a foothold.
Well, Mike, if you talk to them, I would just say, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but
No, go ahead.
is to tell them, quit hinting, Dad, burn it. Tell us like it is to where we can go. I don't want to have to run chase bells and whistles and bicycle going down the road, because we've got to be expeditious about this thing and get it to running. Because we've got young people, our schools, our education, we've got everything on the background of that for somebody just to shoot barbs at us here and there, get to run like feeding you chickens. You can throw your scratch to one side and they're going to run over there. Well, if you want to run them to death, throw a little bit the opposite way.
I agree, but it is kind of a delicate matter. If you remember, they told a bit of a story about how they had a project in the pipeline that was coming to Pogey and Elk Mills, and that somehow CenturyLink negated their ability to touch those areas. So they're going to be cautious because there's no project right now, but it looks like, at least for my district, that'd probably be the most likely suspect, given that Mountain Electric is definitely a no, other than providing the poles.
Right. Ken, would it behoove us to, when we eventually write the grant and submit it, obviously define what speeds we're talking about? I don't want Comcast or Spectrum or Charter or any other entity to come in and block that and make the statement that, oh, we already have high-speed internet. So I think we whenever we submit something, in order to make sure we're actually talking about the speeds that fiber can produce, that somehow has got to be an inclusion-exclusion issue.
Yeah, I agree. We ran into the same problem that Mike had mentioned in Unicoi County, and CenturyLink basically contested them from going to a certain part of Limestone Cove, but after getting a study done, they were able to do some other areas that didn't have the speeds that 25.3 or greater speed. So they were able to go into those areas.
Yeah. Well, and I know that the maps and some of the comments that you have made indicate that that's why we are suspect about what speeds we're talking about and defining what is high-speed internet, because some of these companies will say, well, we offer high-speed internet, when in fact they're nowhere near the speeds of fiber. So I just want to be cautious. If we're going to go down this path, I don't want to be thwarted after everybody puts all their efforts into this. And then they summarily dismiss us out of hand for whatever reason.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I got a question for Mr. Ray. In Unicoi, I'd heard the TVA had a big part to play in that. Do they have any? Is that true or not?
I'm not sure. I know Irwin Utilities was the one that funded it. I don't recall, there might have been some connection with TVA. I'm just not sure. I don't recall hearing that, but I'm not sure one way or the other.
Okay, 'cause I'd heard, do you know exactly who did that? I also heard a guy from Hampton was the one that headed that project over there.
Yeah, Lee Brown, the general manager of Irwin Utilities, I've worked with him a lot, and John Williams, who's over their broadband program. And but yeah, I think they funded most of it. To my knowledge, most of it's funded through bonds that they've issued. So.
Okay, the city was supposed to have met with a guy, and I think they said it's a guy from Hampton. He's a miller. Used to work for Comcast, and he does it on his own now. That's who the city was supposed to be talking with at their meeting. I think they were going to just have a little sit down. He and the city manager. I thought they were going to today or tomorrow. So I'll touch base with the city manager tomorrow and see what was said in that meeting.
Ken, would it be worth us reaching out to Irwin Utilities and having a sit down with them to see how they approached what they did?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. I mean, they can tell you some of here's what we do different. So.
Okay. All right. I don't mind doing that. If anybody else wants to go with me after we set it up, I'm happy to drive and let's go over and sit down with them for 30 minutes or an hour and seek their advice. So, any other things? I know that we also distributed Dr. Bullock's information regarding Northeast State students in Carter County and what access they have. So I hope everybody got that. I've sent it out a couple of times. I don't mean to inundate you with attachments, but I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anybody and that you have the information so you can actually look at it for yourself.
Mr. Chairman, when you take it from the point that's been gathered this evening on the present structures that we have, that it would be in our best interest to, as soon as possible, see if we can arrange a meeting with the ENA and see what those possibilities are, because that may shine a light on our next step. Where we're not going to the left or the right, we're going down the middle of the field to meet our goals and our expectations to provide for our communities and our schools. Well, it must be froze up.
Mr. Johnson, I will try to find a contact for ENA tomorrow. I've got several people that I speak to on a regular basis, but they're not the ones, the higher ups that we would need to speak to. So I'll get some contact information tomorrow, and I'll forward it to whoever you want me to forward that to.
Well, I would send it to myself. I think it's sent to the chair or to Mike Hill.
Okay.
But the engineering side of the house, I'm interested in to see what it would take to connect on, if they would allow it, and they could have the provisions, and we could make the operation perimeter of the speed of the internet. If that all is set and good, what's our next step? If they're in agreement that we can get this going, get a satellite started and see how it's working, and then we could branch out to our other schools and communities around their schools.
Okay.
Chairman Acuff just texted me that he had lost his internet connection, so he asked if I could, I guess, wrap this up or continue this. Oh, he's calling now. Hang on one second. I'll be right.
Does he not have broadband?
I think his wife is having a birthday party and it overrode everybody.
Okay.
I was actually just explaining this to the group. I can put you on speaker. Would you, do you want to try to see if that works?
Yeah, welcome to CenturyLink.
Okay, all right.
Hey,
All right,
Mike,
hurry back.
if the speaker doesn't work, he can always call in on the direct phone line.
Oh, he said that it was coming back online now. I think they had a flicker or something. I don't know. We need some broadband around here, guys. It seems like that would help us a lot. So I'm happy to reach out to ENA, or I'm happy to punt on that one. Other things that were mentioned just now was the bond funding. Mr. Ray, you said that down in Unicoi, they actually issued, I guess, municipals to fund the broadband expansion.
Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of bonds they were, but I do know that's the mechanism they use.
Is that something we should be looking into concurrent with grants?
Possibly. Yeah, I mean, I'd keep all options open.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. Who, what does that process look like, issuing bonds, and who handles that?
Yeah. And I think that's where meeting with urban utilities will help you to understand that.
Okay, so we have ENA and Irwin Utilities. Is there any other agency that we need to bring in right now or try to get in touch with?
Yeah, I'd mentioned the state broadband opportunity program. Crystal Ivy would be a third contact.
Michael, is there anything that CTAS can help us with on this? As far as, I know we're not the only county in the state that is being confronted with this, particularly on the state education side.
I've got a number on Mr. Hall, and I can certainly find out before we meet again, I guess the first Tuesday, if you'd like.
Well, I mean, I just thought that they're always giving us recommendations and background information. I'd like that on the government side of the house as commissioners, and they're pretty well in the crosshairs. And I thought, well, maybe we've overlooked them. Maybe they are sitting there with a folder of information that can give us even more guidance.
It looks like the chairman's back. Bob, are you home?
Yeah, I'm back on, finally. By phone, I can't, it won't let me back on in terms of the Zoom call for whatever reason. Internet is unstable.
So I put my claim
Imagine
on
that.
Okay, so Chairman, we have a list here of resources. Mr. Johnson wants to get in touch with, well, I told him that I would, whatever, wants us to get in touch with CTAS, see if there's any resource there. Crystal Ivy with the state, the ENA school system, internet provider, and Irwin Utilities. So how do we want to divide and conquer here? I
will volunteer
Well,
to contact Crystal Ivy if you all want me to.
That sounds great. We'll put you down for that, Ms. Holdren.
Okay, sir.
I'll reach out to Mr. Hall. I think that's still our constituent area rep at CTAS.
Yeah, Rick Hall, I think you're right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if you guys think you're doing good, I'll reach out to the TVA.
Sure, I think they should be. We appreciate you doing that, Mayor. I think they should know our intent, and also if they have any specialized programs or maybe particularly for rural entities to provide us with some sort of help, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, TVA is the organization that sets those pole connection fees. So if nothing else, maybe if there was an abatement or something possible, put that on your list if you don't mind.
Yes, because TVA they're pretty well loaded. They got all kinds of funding. I don't know if we can get it, but they've got plenty of funding.
Yeah. Mm.
Mr. Chair, Isaiah.
Yes, sir.
Once Mr. McLean comes into contact with E&A, if there's any questions or I can be of any help there, I'd be more than happy to. I've spoken with several of those individuals in the past, and even about trying to get internet at our government locations there as opposed to charter. So I'm familiar with them and kind of their lingo.
Okay. If you'll take that responsibility, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd be more than happy to.
So anything else we need to be doing? Ken, I know you said you're going to reach out to Crystal Ivy for us. Any other thing that in your mind that we need to touch on before we continue to focus on this October 8th deadline?
No, I think you're going the right direction.
Okay, good. Thank you. Appreciate you being here too tonight. Any other items or any other discussion on this particular issue? Don't be afraid to think outside the box as you're mulling all this over. I think it was a good thing that Mr. McLean brought up about the connectivity between our school buildings, and Commissioner Johnson mentioned the fact, can we go a 3-mile radius? Can we reach out to kids, for instance, that and families that are within a 3-mile radius of those schools that they attend? That's the type of thinking we need to be doing. So thank you all for doing that. Don't lose that ability to think outside the box, and let's come up, no matter how wild the idea might be or harebrained. Let's continue to do that and trying to turn over every rock that as we get on this path, we can make a difference for our county and for our families in this county and kids particularly. Any other discussion on this particular item? I know Commissioner Culler wanted to bring forward one thing, that she's had a couple of calls from individuals that would impact health and welfare. So hearing none, Sonja, you want to lay something on the table for us that you've been asked to do?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Acuff. I appreciate it. This may be more directed to the mayor, but I've been in contact with some people in the service industry, basically some hair and nail shops, and they have some concerns about not being shut down. They know it impacts their income, but they're very worried because you can't get your hair cut if you got a mask on. You can't stay 6 feet away from somebody. So they had some questions and some current concerns if we had any idea that would be going that way. So, I'm just going to lay it out there. Do we know what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks? Do we have any idea if we're getting ready to shut things down, or can I give them some idea that that's a possibility?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Please go.
I got some really bad news late this afternoon. I don't know who the calculator is on these numbers, but they miscalculated Carter County. So tomorrow we're probably going to show probably about 74 new cases, but it's not going to be, they're not brand new, but, and I told the people at the health department, I said, people's already questioning, they're already questioning enough about, are these numbers real or what? And now we're going to come up with 74 that they had missed. Some of them went to Washington County, some of them went to Unicoi, some of them went to Johnson, but there are going to be 74 new ones tomorrow.
Well, thanks for letting us know first.
I hate to have bad news, but that's it's kind of let the air out of me because we were doing so good. So we're going to be up around 560, 570 tomorrow.
Okay.
Mayor Barnett, if I may ask a question, do you have any idea what's coming from the governor's office? Have you been in contact with anyone to know what what they're thinking or anything?
He has made a statement several times. He's not going to shut any, now this is what he said, he's not going to shut anything back down. That's what, he said that more than once. But if these numbers, I don't know, these numbers keep climbing, but as of right now, he says he's not going to shut anything back down at this time.
Is he leaving that as an option for local government?
Well, they didn't, I didn't find that out. I'm sure that the 29th, he's going to leave it to the mayors. I mean, that's, he may come up with something, but the big stuff was going to be coming, probably putting the pressure on us.
Well, that at least gives me some idea of, you know, to tell them to wait for the end of the month or something like that when I have contact.
Yes, we'll know something the 29th, what his decision is. And really, I'm worried he may cut the Zoom meetings out the 29th. I mean, you know, I haven't heard anything, but he's the way he talks, the people I talk to, they're wanting to open up a little more. I mean, but they may cut the Zoom meetings out.
Thank you.
And if I could add to that, I contacted the governor's office today to try to find out if they are going to extend the executive order to allow for the electronic meetings, just to see what we're looking at as we have to try to get ready to advertise the September meetings. I got bounced around between 2 or 3 people in the office. Nobody could give me a direct answer, but from what I'm hearing through like CTAS and stuff like that, is he has stated that he will not extend that order past August 29th. He may change his mind, but at this point, we don't know.
Thank you, Abby.
Miss
Yeah,
Abby,
thank
after
you.
dealing with the government so much down there at the state, particularly the State Historical Commission, I found out going to the janitor, you'd get more direct information than you would any of the aides. Because remember, they are the ones that empty the trash can that knows all their notations, and the rest of them don't have a clue.
Well, you know, that's true in the school system. If you need anything, go to the secretaries.
Yeah, well, that's true.
After speaking to 2 or 3 different people in his office and legislative affairs and everything else, I finally gave up and contacted his press office, and that's where I got a halfway decent answer. Was from the people that deal with the reporters, because I knew that guy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for letting me talk about that, Dr. Acuff, and that's just to let you know that people do have some concern, and I told them I'd bring it to the committee. So thank you.
Thank you. And we'll certainly wait on to hear what the mayor or Abby hears from downstate. But I would, I agree, it impacts their business negatively to, unless you're doing something like a wild hairdo, you could wear your mask and they can cut around it. I don't know that anybody would be happy about that. But I certainly want people to be able to conduct business because it is their livelihood.
Mr. Chairman.
So, yes, sir.
I'll say one more thing and I'll hush. Our numbers were down again today. We just had 5 active today, but we had 3 more deaths, and but the numbers are down. But then this big number is going to hit us tomorrow, which that's going to bounce it way up. So, but our numbers have been down, up and down. I mean, but
I would say
well, I hope that
becomes problematic with numbers like that coming up, because everybody, the education system, our government, local government, and everything have set particular goals that if it hits, or phases, if it hits a certain number, then you go into phase 2 or phase 3, and now that throws it out there to where you're unsure, because you know whether your plans are even viable with that.
I did come by the tent today, and there was only 3 cars in line. I think that's the smallest number I've seen.
160 today.
Well,
160.
Go. Wow. Well, I hope the press will report it as these are, you know, these just didn't happen yesterday. Apparently, these are over a period of time, and they'll reach out to the health department in order to make sure that they look at that time frame in relationship to how many new cases during that time frame. As you point out, and I hope they will too, those just weren't diagnosed yesterday.
Mr. Chairman, I hate that it was right on the first day of, first couple of days of school, they're going to think it's because we started school, but
Absolutely.
they did promise that they would, express that it did not happen just, overnight. It's been
Okay.
several weeks.
Okay, that's good. That will hopefully, if everybody will read the entire article or listen to the news media, that they'll understand that those are not 70 new cases over the weekend. Let us pray for that. Okay, I don't want to hold us any longer because I know Commissioner Johnson's going to eat ice cream here in a wee bit. But in the meantime, before we adjourn, our next meeting will be our regular scheduled meeting. But in the meantime, between now and then, let's all keep in communication with emails and text messages, et cetera, about where we are in the process, who we need to contact, what has been done, so that we don't lose our momentum. And I just appreciate everybody being on the call tonight and having an interest in moving this agenda and this initiative forward. So unless there are other comments, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Dr. Acuff, may
Yes.
I say something right quick? It's Randall Jenkins.
Yes, sir.
Just real quick, I'm to this group. I get it out there. Want to apologize if I might have been a little out of line last night with some of my comments, but there's a good amount of commissioners on here, so I wanted to throw that out there and let everybody know my apologies. But I appreciate that, and you guys go ahead.
30 laps around the monument, Randall.
Heard. and 20 push-ups too.
Well, you're like me. Well, you're not like me no more. I can see my belt buckle now, but 20 push-ups will push it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Chairman,
Motion to adjourn.
one comment. Now, we reappoint.
Okay.
We are reappointing next month, and I went ahead and sent an email to the clerk's office requesting to stay here because we're just getting ankle deep in this broadband thing. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I requested reassignment to or continuing to be assigned to this post so that we can try to push this thing forward, and I'd love to see all of y'all perhaps do the same. Thank you.
Chairman Acuff,
Thank
if I may
you.
ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Since we have Chairwoman Woodby on here, I was going to ask her if it's possible that she emails us all a list of the committees or boards that are not the standing committees that might have open seats next month. Are there any, Ms. Woodby?
At this time, there's no open seats on any of the boards other than the standing committees. But I will double check and make sure if there is, I will submit that through an email.
Thank you.
You're
But, Madam
welcome.
Thank you
Chair,
very much.
Chair, would
Yes.
you check Parks and Rec for me, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
But even though
Commissioner
it's
Johnson,
not-
you were,
Yeah, even though they're not standing committees, any position in a committee can be refilled, either with the existing or from the floor nominations. It don't necessarily mean whether they want to give it up or not.
good point. So anything else good for the cause? Everybody's got their homework assignments, as well as keeping our momentum going forward and keeping communication lines open. So if I know that Commissioner Culler made the motion to adjourn, if there's a second, we'll end the call.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. So I take that as a majority, since there were no further discussion. So thank you all for joining us tonight. I think it's been a very productive meeting. So we'll just, as I said, just keep in touch. So thanks to everybody.
Shalom.
Thank you.
All right,
Happy
everybody.
birthday, Marshall.
Good night.